All right, everyone, welcome to our first webinar of the year for 2025. Really happy today to be joined by Rachael and Mel from Pont3, and as we're going to get into a bit of detail about the TCS Sydney Marathon presented by ASICS and how they've evolved their volunteer program over the last few years with a bit of help from technology. So Rachael, Mel, thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
Yeah, welcome. So, look, a bit of an overview for today. These are pretty short and sharp webinars, 15, 20 minutes. We'll get right into the detail. And so a couple of key points we're going to cover today. So a bit of an overview of Pont3 and the volunteer program, introduction from the team here and what their roles are, and how involved they are with the program, the evolution they've seen. Touch on some of the challenges that I think, Rach, you'd agree are pretty renowned across the industry, of like where you guys were a few years ago, are probably where a lot of organizations are still today. And then probably next around how you've evolved and moved through a few of these challenges and some learnings along the way. One thing I think you guys have done really well across the time, especially in the last year, I think, Rach, you'd agree, is the importance of the community partners and how that's been able to scale your volunteer program. And then lastly, I know, again, like in this last year, being really successful with the online training and induction process that volunteers have really appreciated. So maybe just very quickly introductions. Mel, if you want to start off, who you are, what's your position in the organisation, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Mel. I'm the workforce manager here at Pont3 and for the TCS Sydney Marathon. I cover all paid and unpaid crew and a few other little bits and pieces. But yeah, I basically head up the volunteer program here, especially for the marathon.
Lovely, thank you.
For me, I'm Rachel. I'm heading up event services team. We've actually both just stepped into these new roles. So in the past, I've been heading up the volunteers, but we've handed over to Mel, her capable, trusty hands. I mean, both of us have been part of the volunteer program and the crew program anyway, so we've worked closely together for the past couple of years.
Lovely. Thank you, guys. Cool. Well, and just very quickly for those joining that aren't aware of Rosterfy and who we are, with myself, Shannan, co-founder here of Rosterfy, but we've been around for around 8 years now, and what we want to be is the very best in the world at managing mass workforce. And the very start of our journey was in major events and sports, and in particular customers like Rachael and Mel at Pont3. So us as a platform now, specialising in mass workforce, volunteer and paid staff in one central system, have delivered over 100 million hours of volunteering and paid work across the world in 35 countries. But having teams in APAC, in Middle East, in Europe, and in the US, so customers across the globe. But I think this story we have today is a great example of the success our customers see. So if I move to the next slide, just a very quick sample of some of the customers that we work with. Actually, London Marathon was one of our very first customers in the mass participation space, but as you see on the screen, there are lots of major events from all over the world, from the Super Bowl to UEFA to a lot of major events even across the Middle East. So this is what we specialize in and what we really enjoy doing. So now, Mel, do you want to jump on this one and just have a quick sort of summary for those that are joining that aren't too aware of your program, potentially on sort of the growth of your program and what it looks like coming into 2025?
Yeah, of course. So the TCS Sydney Marathon has previously, from 2022 to 2024, been in our candidate period to become the 7th Abbott World Marathon Major. And very excitingly, at the end of last year, we were announced as the 7th. So now we are joined by the likes of London, Berlin, Boston, New York, Tokyo, and Chicago, which is very exciting. So with that, our volunteer program has grown extraordinarily. I remember in 2022 when I first started, we had 500 volunteers come on the day, which was exciting. It was the first event after COVID, so there was still a little bit of drop off and apprehensive from the volunteers, but over the years we've really seen the growth and it's been phenomenal. I guess with the growth of the event as well. The name gets out there a little bit more. So we've gone from 500 in 2022 to an increase to 3,000 last year, which is exciting. With this, I guess the course and everything increased incredibly. So we introduced about over 100 new volunteer team leaders, which is really exciting for year on year because they tend to sort of own a few volunteers, are able to lead a team, and year on year they come back and we're able to sort of build on their skills as well. Over the last few years, we've had 425 shifts filled. So as you can imagine, with the marathon, we cover such a large space of the city. So we have heaps of opportunities all around the city in all different spots. And with the introduction of Rosterfy, we now host 6 of our events. So we have a few other smaller events we have throughout the year. And that's really helped us sort of integrate our volunteers and make sure that they can sort of not only focus on, so we have a lot of volunteers that volunteer for the Sydney Marathon, but they now sort of get passed on to the other events, which is exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And Rachel, I remember a few years ago that was a bit of a challenge, wasn't it, around volunteers going, well, I did the marathon. How do I then get involved with the other events too? And is there a sort of single place to go to? How's that transition been, Rachel, for volunteers?
Oh, it's been great. We used to, approach, the two of us would approach the same volunteers, but with a different event hat on each time. And they're like, are you guys the same? We can't tell that you're different. So we've built a bit of a community that's Pont 3 wide so that our smaller events are leveraging off the main flagship event, the marathon. So it's huge. We're seeing the same volunteers then turn up to multiple. It gives us the chance to recruit more team leaders, like Mel was saying, because we get to meet them more often throughout the year. So definitely helps us with the smaller events, having the larger event to recruit and then use the same people.
100%, right? It's like the fire starter, isn't it? It brings them all in, right? You build your database there that then can flow on to the other events. We actually did a webinar end of last year with Golf Australia, and they had a really great example of this, right? Where they have maybe 8 to 10 major championships in golf around the country. But then on top of that, they might have 20, 30, 50 state regional championships that have always struggled for volunteers, even if they only need 20 or 50 volunteers at these events. But now volunteers are sort of queuing up to go out, an hour and a half drive out to Bendigo or into regional New South Wales to volunteer at these events because it helps build their profile and they just want to help as well. They've got the free time and they go, you know what, I'm free, I can get out there, I love golf. So I think that connected piece, it works better for volunteers too. If they want to help, you're making it easier for them compared to them needing to just randomly call you and be, as you described, Rachel, be like, is this all one show or not? So that's something I think is it's not talked about enough, is the flow on from these big events that you have, for sure. All right, well, thank you for that quick summary, Mel. Appreciate that, and congratulations on the Abbott's introductory. It's a massive achievement from the team, and a lot of hard work has gone into it. So something the team should be extremely proud of. So who wants to own this one, Rach, Mel, in terms of the challenge where you were back in the day that I think a lot of people could resonate with?
Yeah, I'll go for it. As we mentioned, we started quite small. We originally were working through manual assigning volunteers to shifts, using a lot of spreadsheets, paper. I remember a few years ago, people would get sent out their sort of forms, all of their gear in it, literally in the mail. So we've come a long way from that. We have also previously used other platforms where a lot of the reporting was done externally. It was very time consuming. It was a lot of back and forth. So that made it challenging, I guess, when we wanted stuff pretty quickly, pretty instantly, where there's a lot of waiting time, which made a lot of things sort of get backlogged. And again, like we mentioned just before, the events operated separately. So we had sort of email addresses for every single event, and sort of there was no cohesion. So having a Pont 3 wide, program that allows people to know we've built this community, they're part of the Pont 3 volunteer program, and they can, they know that we're from everything. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Rachel, anything else on top of that, or are you comfortable with those three sort of points from your memory from back a couple of years ago?
Yeah, for sure. I think another challenge is like our team was stretched. Like, I guess it's just the time saving piece, right? We were stretched having to do all this manually over and over. So even though our events are all growing, our team size actually hasn't grown since adopting this software. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so you've grown from 500 to 3,000 without adding more headcount in the team. Where had you stuck with these processes, that would be a team of what do you think now, Rach, if you needed to deliver? What do you reckon?
Like, I don't even want to know.
Probably double.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah, probably double. Yeah, fair enough. And Rachel, what I recall from a few years ago was the database from Sydney Marathon. It was sort of a bit confusing who owned that database a little bit, and was it how could they connect to the other events a bit? Do you want to talk through that sort of scenario and how that might have been challenging?
Yeah, so our events, we have like client-owned events and then events that Pont3 owns as well. So now that we have this system, all the volunteers come through us, and we do own and manage that data, and we just have to write different agreements with different events and make it work for each. But yeah, we definitely have more control over the data of who's who. We can communicate with them however we want, and we schedule our comms across the whole year, keeping all the events in mind, not just working on one and then hopping to the other. They were great.
Brilliant.
So
yeah, makes sense. And can I just ask around the recruitment as well? Back a few years ago, if I wanted to volunteer, what was the process and how manual did it look and feel? So that's sort of part one of the question. And the next part is around like, if I really wanted to be on a drink station or work with my friends, like how did I feel? How was my experience as a volunteer back then when it ultimately ended up in spreadsheets and sort of bulk emails and things? And this is all looking back in the revision mirror, I know, but I just think that's the underspoken about area, isn't it? About that experience for the volunteer. How did they feel? Did they feel valued? What was your reflection on that?
we definitely just email spammed as many people as we could, and called as many people as we could. But the volunteer would then fill out a form. I don't even know what we used to use as the form collector, but just a questionnaire. What roles do you prefer? What area do you prefer? And then we had to go through that and use that information to try and allocate people based on their preferences. So you could say you wanted to be on a drink station, but they're very popular. And our events cover a major space. You might say you want to be on a drink station in North Sydney. You might end up at Centennial Park on a drink station or Encore, things like that. So we would still collect the data, but it was lots of spreadsheets, and then the volunteer would have to sit and wait for us to allocate them, but we couldn't really allocate people until we had way more applicants coming through to know what we're working with.
Yeah.
And then us having to then email the volunteer, manually writing out what shift they were in.
Yeah.
And then if they wanted to withdraw, they'd have to contact us, and then we'd have to manually move them from the shift. There was a lot of manual back and forths around and around. Just the communication. It wouldn't have been so cohesive, I think. And they would have had to wait a few days potentially to get a response. We do welcome emails, but all manual, on and on. Sounds ridiculous.
No. Bit of trauma. No, I know. Mel, any other reflection from?
Even the certificates afterwards, actually trying to get everyone's individual name on certificate emailed. We used to print them all and mail them out, but again, we don't do that anymore. With sustainability, people can host the PDF certificates on their LinkedIn or whatever they want to do with that, or print it themselves if that's what they want to do. So I think I had to learn how to do fancy mail merges and then attach unique email attachments to each unique email address without spamming everybody, sending it from the right email address. Oh my goodness, definitely remember that.
No, I remember catching up with you guys and talking through a few of these things. So, let's move forward then in terms of this solution. And yes, Rosterfy was a part of this, but you guys as a business have made some really great structural changes, and with you two leading the charge as well. Like it's a credit to both of you and the evolution of this program, and for the Abbott's, like, volunteer side is a big part of it, right? Like you have to deliver a great volunteer program in order to be recognised for Abbott, so it's a big part of it. So we've touched on these points, so maybe I'll just touch on them briefly around growing that program for 500 to 3,000 volunteers without adding extra headcount. I think that's the important part there. Around the 50% reduction in time, Rachel, you touched on it before. You reckon your team would probably be about double if you needed to deliver this without sort of systems running automations and getting out of the trauma we just spoke about in spreadsheets and mail mergers and copying and pasting names. And then the last one, so the thing I'm really interested in, hopefully for people listening, what people can learn about is moving from the in-person, we're still doing a bit of in-person, but moving really more so to the shift-specific online training and inductions for volunteers and the positive feedback that you receive. So we'll get to the detail of that in a second, but I just wanted to, before we get there, Rachael or Mel, do you want to talk to the growth of the program and how you've been able to do this with corporate partners and community partners compared to perhaps just relying on individuals to fill positions? And there's a sample here of some of your partners, but there are a lot more, I know, outside of this that played this role and were really critical volunteer partners for you. So do you want to talk to the growth of this, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, community partners we really rely on. Mel kind of leads the charge building connections with community leads. The two of us and our small team don't know 3,000 people. So we need to find people who know more people. So we lean on our partners. So TCS is a great example. They have heaps of clients and a massive connection into the corporate space. So leaning on them to help drive some partners through there to volunteer. I know a lot of corporates do corporate volunteering where staff get days in lieu if they're from a big company, and so they support volunteering through their company. TCS as well they've nominated a charity last year. It was the Indigenous Marathon Foundation, so that charity came and volunteered as well and partnered with TCS. They were together on a drink station, so it's just, you know, like the network, building that network, and then we only have to deal with one person from the lead company or charity group or community group as well, and then they go and recruit on our behalf, and we just build that connection with their lead, and then
What does a small group, what does a big group look like? Like what's a typical group here bringing to your events?
Oh, we are so flexible. So we work with any size group. So there might be a group of 10 from a small office that come and want to do a shift together. What was our largest group? Like 80 or something?
Yeah, 80 to 100.
Yeah, some groups want to do a whole shift together. So we have enormous drink stations to service the marathon. So some groups will take out an entire drink station. So they all know each other. They'll come and they'll work at a drink station all together. Otherwise, smaller groups can work in one of our venues, and you know, they work together on site. So yeah, all different sizes, all different shapes.
Yeah, for sure. I think this to me is a fascinating one, and not just in mass participation world, but also in non-profits, about how do you get groups of people to come and volunteers instead of just individuals to increase your reach, I suppose. But also often it's put in the too hard basket, because you guys have done a fantastic job in building these relationships, but you can't do this at scale, right? Unless you can't have all your time trying to build the relationship and then trying to do this in a spreadsheet somewhere and the mail merge and saying, well, where's Rachel from? Is she from TCS or is she from Destination New South Wales? How do I make sure she's connected with her colleagues? How do I connect that to a report that goes back to the organisation? Can you talk to me about that journey? And I do believe this is a big part of what Rosterfy helps organisations with. Can you talk to me about perhaps, did you do this at the start or you didn't because it was too hard basket? And maybe how's that evolution changed, and how do you systemize this community engagement?
Yeah, we've definitely done it from the beginning, and it's grown along the way. So we use the group function within Rosterfy, and then we create unique invite links, so we can give our community contact their unique link. So it'll be like the Pont3 Rosterfy at TCS group or something like that. So then they go drive that. We give our community liaison group leader functionality, I guess, so they can see who from their organization has signed up. So we really give them ownership of that group, and then we also make them the shift leader, so they can see, okay, these people have signed up, they're in my group, and then see who's in the shift itself on whichever events they're a part of. And then like for our big event like the marathon, we definitely customize the branding and make it more Sydney Marathon branding if they're like a only Sydney Marathon partner, or if they're happy to be involved in more Pont 3, then we can customize the branding there. But it's definitely, they have a different journey to the individuals because they come through their group invite link, and then we can tag what kind of group they are and communicate with them as a group member rather than as an individual. So
that branding element, that's the registration form for TCS as an example is now in Rosterfy. You can brand that up for TCS, put a little Sydney Marathon logo next to it, so they feel connected and valued compared to just them landing on the standard form that everyone's coming through. Is that correct, Rach?
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly right.
So each group kind of owns their own space a little bit more.
Yeah, and so some of our clients, there's lots of different ways groups can engage in the platform, but some go that if I'm a volunteer from TCS, that I will register and then I'll land in the group in my portal. But some of our clients extend that the next stage through automations as well, that I will go directly into the shifts that might be drink station 5 for TCS. Do you take it all that way through, or do you sort of stop them at the group stage and then you want to allocate them together? What's your process?
It depends on the group. Mel has really good chats with each group and sees what they want to do. Some groups, they want to all be there, but they don't want to specify for their members where they volunteer. So if they do that path, then they just join the group and then it's kind of open from there. But other groups that have selected their shift, like TCS, they want drink session 15 this year, they will automatically, we use that automation, and they automatically get slotted into the drink station with their group.
Sure. So horses
really
with horses, some you set that up that they'll roll straight through, and others you want to sort of stop them and have a bit more time to manage them and put them in the right spot. That makes sense. Cool. Mel, anything else on the community partner side?
Yeah, I was just going to say that works really well. That function works really well when I'm talking to, I guess, big charities that sort of, and bigger groups that sort of promote our event, but they're all individual, in a sense, volunteers. So we can show and hide different shifts that we want them to go to, or what we have. Yeah, and then they can choose their own shift. So it's not just putting them straight into a shift with everyone else from a charity. It's literally like they can just choose where they want to go, which is great because not everyone can do an 8-hour shift, and not everyone wants to be out in Centennial Park sort of thing. So
for sure.
It's a great week.
Well, just a quick flashback for me, at least when I was working in the volunteers team at Tough Mudder back in the day, a challenge that we face and every mass participation event faces is that if you just had all your shifts open to everyone, then the best shifts will fill out. The finish line shift from 9 a.m. till midday will fill out, right? And then you'll never get anyone in the car parks or in anywhere else that you need them to be. Look, this would be a facet of how do you make sure like an equal element of shifts are being filled. But maybe from your experience, how do you best manage that? I know this is a bit of a sidetrack, but how do you best manage that equal sharing of shifts and not just filling all your best ones first and then struggling to fill some of the more hard to fill shifts, guys?
You got that? No? Okay. With the groups, we sort out the groups before we open the roster publicly. So we go to groups who were there last year. They get first preference on their location. So we've actually got a lot of the same groups look after the same area of our event. So they know their spot. We know that we can trust them in their spot. Otherwise, for those more popular spots like handing out medals at the finish line, always fills out first. We'll only actually display half of the shifts to start with, and then the shifts are a bit harder to fill. We have a ridiculously early start, 3 a.m. at North Sydney for some of our shifts.
Of course.
We'll open up all of those first and kind of encourage people into there. We're looking at providing more incentives for those kind of trickier shifts. And
Yeah.
we open up more medal shifts later. We also have a few legacy volunteers, so they're the ones that have been around longer than we have at this event.
Yep.
So they get first preference as well. We'll put them into the more popular shifts, but definitely it's we just kind of change the demand that's on display.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's for a lot of mass participation events, there's still a lot out there that is still using sort of CRMs or ticketing systems, right, for their shifts. And it's really hard for them to display or not display certain roles and opportunities to different groups and individuals. So that can be a challenge that I've seen in the industry. We'll keep moving for time. I knew we were always going to run a bit over, but we'll do our best. Now, this is, who wants to take this on? Mel or Rach, talking about the online training journey.
Yeah, training has been a massive one for us in the last few years, really trying to improve on our training, but also ensure that volunteers are coming to the shift feeling very confident, knowing exactly what they what they need to be doing, where, everything. So we've implemented shift-specific online training for all the key areas. So we still do our face-to-face, we still offer face-to-face briefings because we find that a lot of our potentially older or international students, or a lot of different people obviously like to be there face-to-face and meet new people, all that sort of stuff. But then obviously there's the other side that are time poor, work full-time, can't get to those to those face-to-face. So we have found that the training modules on Rosterfy have been incredible to be able to upload all of the information that we need. We can see who's done them, which is incredible. So if anyone has any issues, we can send them straight there, and we can track their progress with their account, which is great. It's really important for us for some areas, to see who's doing it, especially things like team leaders and stuff. So yeah, the training's been a massive thing, and we're still working on it. We still want to implement a few different things visually, and short and sharp videos, I guess, to really spread the message. But for us, the training modules have been phenomenal to make sure that we can track who's done it. And so people that are asking us questions, we can sort of be like, well, just do this one first, and then you'll get all the info there.
What's the thing that you've learnt about the experience? Was there something that surprised you, like more people did it, or the feedback was good? Was there any, what's something that you've grabbed from the experience?
Feedback definitely changed. Yeah, we do like a post-event survey through Rosterfy after every event, and people kind of came back with their feedback saying that our training wasn't too specific. They didn't feel like they knew exactly what to do in their shift. So we've used that feedback. We've created shift-specific trainings rather than getting everyone who's at the start venue together in one training. We can do shift-specific trainings, and they only so they can do that, learn about their shift, and then so the feedback after doing that at the next event completely changed. Everyone was super positive. So that's how we're approaching everything: feedback form, see what people have to say, and then making a change based on that.
Wow, awesome, guys. Well done, in making those changes, because it can be daunting, right? Going, well, what if everyone hates it, or what if no one wants to do it online? So I'm sure you would have had these thoughts. But I mean, amazing to see that feedback at the end of it, of how successful that was. Interesting. Okay, well, maybe a good one for people to think about for their volunteers, and making it. I do agree that that's specific elements of it, of being like, how do I know when I'm waking up that I will feel confident to do my role, compared to just the generic information about the event that isn't going to help me deliver for my specific 6 hours that I'll be there. I think it's something that's, again, the first thing I spoke about today was that volunteer experience. I think that's just what volunteers are now coming to expect as well. So, well done on making that change and seeing it.
And our team's been really supportive on that too. So we get the functional area leads from each of these positions out on the event, and they come and deliver their aspect of the event as well. So it's not just the two of us presenting things we don't fully understand. It's like getting the person who actually designed the medals process to come and deliver that. So I think having our team support is awesome as well.
Yeah, good feedback. Mel, anything else on that experience from your side?
No, I think that's a major one, just empowering our volunteers to make sure that they're feeling the best on the day, and to be able to ask any questions, especially in those online or in-person trainings, to ensure that everyone feels really good, because when people turn up to a shift feeling good, that makes our job much easier.
Yeah, fantastic. And their feedback positive as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
amazing. Look, guys, the objective today was to keep it short and sharp. We've touched on some really good things there about your evolution from where you were a few years ago to where we are now, probably needing to take some risks in a sense of going, well, it's worth a shot, and we've got feedback and we've actioned on it. And to see that being so successful now and the growth in the program, I think it's just a great story to tell. So thank you. And what I'd love to we'll be sharing this out for everyone online in the next few weeks. And guys, please, if you have any questions, I'm sure reach out to us, and we can even facilitate some introductions as well. We'd love to have you guys back and talk about the program, in the next little while, and see how it's evolving again. We've spoken about things like reward and recognition, investing more into other parts of the program. There's scope to grow, which I'm excited to keep watching from the sidelines. So yeah, guys, appreciate you joining today. Thanks so much, and all the best for this year's events and growing the program.
Thank you. Thanks,
It's
Shannan.
gonna be good.
No worries. My details are there, guys, for anyone that wants to reach out. So thanks, guys, and we'll call that a day. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shannan.
Cool.